What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Flea Flicker with Jackson Kane. It's week 12. I know I'm a little late with this vlog post. It's Saturday night. Sorry I didn't get it out sooner. I've been busy this week. But let's jump right into week 12 and some of these matchups. All right, QB love this week. Russell Wilson at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, the sixth worst fantasy defense against quarterbacks. They're without their best corner, Brent Grimes, for this game. They've allowed 21 total TDs to quarterbacks on the season, so I love Russell Wilson this week. Next guy, Derek Carr versus Carolina. 7 TDs and 1 pick in his last 3 games, and Carolina's the 8th worst QB defense in fantasy. And they'll be without Luke Kuechly for at least this week. So, yeah, he suffered a concussion last week, so he's not playing. Carson Palmer at Atlanta. 6 TDs in his last 3 after only totaling 7 in his first 6 games. Atlanta ranks dead last against fantasy QBs, so I love Carson Palmer against the Falcons. QB hate, Jameis Winston versus Seattle. Seattle's allowing just under 14 fantasy points a game to QBs on the year, and they're one of 2 teams to have allowed 8 or fewer passing TDs on the year. Alex Smith at Denver. No Jeremy Maclin for this game. On the road at Sports Authority Field. Not a fan. Blake Bortles at Buffalo. Bills have allowed just 13 total TDs to the quarterback position this year in 10 games. And Blake Bortles is Blake Bortles, so sit him this week. Wide receiver love this week, Jordan Matthews versus Green Bay. Packers, one of 3 teams with 17 TDs allowed to the position, and they rank dead last in points allowed, fantasy points allowed, with 26.9 per game. Doug Baldwin at Tampa Bay. Like Russell Wilson, like Doug Baldwin. He's got 4 total TDs in his last 2 games. If you remember, he had a passing TD last week. And like I said, no Brent Grimes for Tampa Bay. Rashard Matthews at Chicago. He's had at least 4 catches in 6 of his 11 games this year. Chicago has given up a league-leading 158 completions to wideouts this year, so love Rashard Matthews. Wide receiver hate this week, Mike Evans versus Seattle. He's the only weapon they have. Pete Carroll's going to be gunning for him. And the Legion of Boom ranks 5th best against fantasy wideouts. Terrell Pryor versus the Giants. Giants, one of 7 teams with 7 or fewer TDs allowed to wide receivers, and their defense is improving every week. Cameron Meredith versus the Titans. All I got to say about this one is Matt Barkley. That's all I have to say. All right, running back love this week. Very unfamiliar names on this list. Just letting you guys know. Rashad Jennings at Cleveland. One of the few times I will ever put him on any sort of love list from me. Cleveland, second worst against backs this year. 22.8 fantasy points per game allowed. Thomas Rawls at Tampa Bay. He's the only healthy back on their team, minus rookie Alex Collins. So I think he'll get the bulk of the work. And he gets a bottom 11 defense against running backs this week. So, love Thomas Rawls. Chris Ivory at Buffalo. TJ Yeldon, not expected to play. Like I said, I don't like Bortles. So, I think the only thing that's really going to work for them is the run game. And Buffalo's allowed 10 rushing TDs to backs this year. So, love Chris Ivory. RB hate this week, Jeremy Hill versus Baltimore at Baltimore. League's best fantasy rushing defense. They've allowed just 4 total TDs to the position this year, and they have a league best 3.4 yards per carry allowed. LaShawn McCoy versus Jacksonville. Sammy Watkins may be back for this game, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think Buffalo's going to struggle big time, and I say sit Shady McCoy. Carlos Hyde at Miami. Miami is a top 10 fantasy rush defense. They've allowed just 4 TDs to the position on the year, so I say sit Mr. Hyde. Tight end love this week, Zach Ertz versus Green Bay. Green Bay, a bottom 6 defense against tight ends. They've allowed the 2nd most yards to the position on the year. Jimmy Graham at Tampa Bay. you can see a theme. I love Seattle's offense this week against Tampa Bay. They're a bottom 10 defense against tight ends, and they're allowing over 7 fantasy points to the position on the year. Next guy, Greg Olsen at Oakland. I know Oakland's been playing well, but they've been pretty bad against tight ends all year long, and this is the best tight end they've seen. So, love Greg Olsen. Tight end hate Jared Cook at Philly. I know he's coming off his best game of the year, but Philly's been really good against tight ends all year. Third best against the position, and they've allowed the lowest amount of completions with 28. Travis Kelce at Denver. Obviously, Jeremy Maclin's out, and Denver, they got the no-fly zone over there. It's going to be tough to get anything going through the air, so I don't like Travis Kelce. Antonio Gates at Houston, another team that's been really good against position. Fourth best against the position. Just 4.4 fantasy points allowed to the position. All right, moving on to my picks. 6 weeks in a row, I've got a chance to dance. I'm going to go with Thomas Rawls at Tampa Bay to find the end zone this week. It's a guarantee. Waste of space, Jeremy Hill, like I talked about earlier, at Baltimore. Just don't see him getting much going. 3 bold predictions. Carson Wentz will have at least 250 passing yards against Green Bay. The Titans will beat the Bears by at least 9 points. And Jay Ajayi will have at least 13 standard fantasy points this week against the Niners. So, that's the Flea Flicker with me, Jackson Kane, Week 12. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you got a good lead after the Thanksgiving games. Hopefully you had Antonio Brown on your team. If not, you got a deep hole to climb out of, but you can do it. Good luck with your matchups this week, and thanks for watching.